So welcome to day one of the Warchief Club 12. So we've got Diege86 playing off against Murder1nc in one of the round 2 games here in an English versus English mirror. Well, English mirror or English versus English. Didn't need to say both. Anyways, Diege's going to go for early wood, and for early gold. Murder1nc just going straight for the food for the moment, and then I think he's going to follow up with the gold and skip early wood gathering. And second scout for Diege, while Murder1nc, I believe, has just gone for the 1. Murder1nc is actually going to go for the wood. It'll just be a little bit slow. He's going to take an early mill. So Murder1nc's either going to have to get on the wood anyway, or he's going to go for an upgrade first and have to distance gather, which I don't think he's going to want to do. Well, DA, having already gathered some wood, isn't far off being able to take any of his eco techs, so he's going to go for wheelbarrow first. Just makes everything a little bit more efficient in how it picks up and drops off resources, because any amount of walking time is going to be reduced. And it's an especially good upgrade in this matchup, considering both players are going to want to tower up fairly aggressively, because English gets a buff with their tower attacks, so it's really, really good for your bowmen. Your long bowmen, which already outrange every other ranged unit, so you get access to siege. It's a nice addition to get the attack speed, and to get the added ability to just drop them in there and garrison them. If they get low, they're going to get focused. So Murder1nc has the mill already, but he's got to go on the wood first anyway before he can really get any value out of it yet. While Diege, having started out with wood gathering and gold gathering, he's already taken wheelbarrow, so it's about to kick in, and it's going to be really good for his farm food gathering in particular, because any walk time on there, it's going to not matter. And yeah, like I said, this is one of the better matchups to grab wheelbarrow in, because you can probably assume that your opponent's going to want to work towards it too. And DA can even go for double scout harass here, which is the standard early, because if you can snipe a villager or force some gathering time loss, it's a real boon. Because Diege's scouts from here can always regen through this. I mean, Murder1nc is unlikely to actually lose a villager here, because the scouts only deal 2 damage each to them. The vills can actually hand-to-hand beat a scout in an outright fight, even though they cost 20 less food. But the beauty is that they are faster, they do regenerate health. You know, you actually can use them to gather all your herdable sheep up. And I wonder if there'll ever be a alternative to sheep in the game on some maps or tile sets. That'd be cool. AoEO's got it. So Diege taking a fair bit slower council hall, but bearing in mind he's already got wheelbarrow tech. He's investing just as many vills into it, but later as well. So his overall spending behind this isn't going to be so... His overall gathering and spending behind this isn't going to be as locked up. I mean, it's going to cost him the same amount overall, but just means that he's going to be able to throw something down while it's training. And Abbey of Kings is an interesting choice, because it means you're pretty much either going to be using a hit and run army constantly, or you're going to be expecting to defend. This has actually been the first game I've casted I've seen anyone use the Abbey of Kings. So it's an interesting pick from Murder1nc. But this is nice. He's possibly going to get this scout. Yeah, he should actually. That's a nice pick off. This villager a little bit over rallied, but it's not a huge drama. He's She's oh well, he's gonna use it to build a range. No, stable first actually. So I don't think Murder1nc actually scouted that. I think he should see the buildings though, shouldn't he? That's weird. I don't know if this scouting thing actually works properly. I mean, I don't know if the line of sight thing for building display actually works properly. But Diege's instantly going to go for range and barracks. I don't believe he saw that go up, but this is weird. It doesn't show any of the buildings he should actually see, which is a bit annoying. Because then I can't actually really tell whether or not he's seen the stables and whether or not Murder1nc's seen the council hall. But I think Murder1nc, judging by where his scout was over here, I think he probably did see it when he ran past. Sorry to get a bit lost there, guys. So, some more wood gathering here. It'd be nice to see Diege throw down a closer lumber camp like right here. Same with Murder1nc, but he hasn't gathered as much at this stage, I don't think. And it's good of Diege to not just instantly rally the bowmen, considering Murder1nc's gone for a stables. And horsemen are going to be able to fight the longbowmen quite well on even spending and even production rate. So populations are pretty even at this stage. I mean, they're both on one town centre and they've both got fairly minimal production at this stage. Like, Diege's gone for 2 production buildings, but he can't quite yet afford to... he can just afford to stream out of them. But he wants to expand his farm eco from here as well. And he's already taken the first lumber gathering upgrade, so really nice for his gathering. Well, double broadaxe is in queue for Murder1nc. Murder1nc can no doubt see these guys up here. Well, Diege's thinking, what the fuck, Abbey of Kings? What? But he can see the army as well. So, neither player started stone gathering yet. I imagine they're both wanting to go to age 3 fairly quickly. Blacksmith fairly early there for both players. Other than the production buildings, build's looking pretty similar here. That blacksmith timing is very similar. And it does look like Diege's banking a lot of gold, because I imagine for a fast castle. Well, Diege is gathering his resource pool's a lot more even. Getting a second mill now. Nice position on that. Ooh, Murder1nc's house at the moment. I think he's going to need to throw up one pretty quickly. I mean, in this position, this is probably the only time you should rally more than one villager to try and build a building like this. Just to force it up that little bit quicker, because right now, Diege is slightly ahead in terms of the population. It's just going to mean he's going to get a little extra rotation of train time in over his opponent, get an extra unit out. Both eco and military, which is pretty important. So, Murder1nc has gone for wheelbarrow now. And it's not a bad time considering he's only just now started on the farm transition. When he's actually going to go for a mining camp. Even though he's banked up this much gold and food, he's looking to go for both, I imagine, a town centre and his castle age, which means he'd get 2 town centres probably. Depending on what landmark he picks. Meanwhile, Diege, I think, is probably just looking to try and push out, take some armory upgrades first before he sort of commits to going to castle. If he can get a bit of value now and possibly try and mount a feudal push. Because at the moment, he is slightly ahead in the longbow count, so he should be able to win outright fights, I think. I mean, horsemen are quite strong, but bearing in mind, once that charge is done, the spears are going to outright win in the fights here. So, like I said, Murder Inc. struggling to keep up in longbow numbers. None of the longbows have actually died as of yet for Diege, so Murder Inc. having dropped 5 or 6 there, and a horseman for... Actually, I think he must have lost 1 longbow and 1 or 2 spears. So Murder Inc. definitely coming off a little worse for wear in that fight, and his armory upgrades he hasn't committed to any of yet, while Diege managing to get his first range damage upgrade, and he's fit in Siege Engineering, which is just about finished. So, well guys, Siege Engineering really ups the ante here, because the moment Diege gets an army advantage here, he's going to be able to access rams and use them to try and either snipe one of these production buildings or even pressure the town center, force his opponent to lose a lot of gathering time. But Murder Inc., he does have the horseman, so he has mobility on his side. And he is fighting on his own doorstep, so really he doesn't need to throw up outposts in this spot for him to get the attack speed, while Diege does. That's why he's creeping forward with these outposts. Actually, in saying that, maybe 1 outpost here, because those guys are pretty far back. But yeah, it looks like... I was going to say Murder Inc. I thought he was going to go for a quick castle, but... Oh, he has 2. He does have the stone for a town center, exactly 300. So, triple town center behind all this. He might be able to boom and catch up here. But he's going to have to try and survive, and like I said, maybe one tower a little bit, 1 outpost a little bit closer, because I thought the town center would be alright, but maybe not quite. It's going to mean these villages are under threat. Diege's done a good job at massing up the longbow, so he's going to be able to snipe vills here and there and everywhere. But Murder Inc. getting close enough to a critical mass that he can almost pick off individual longbows himself, and one mistake from Diege with splitting these guys up too far, and it's can be over with the horsemen, because these guys are going to be able to overwhelm the bowmen themselves quite quickly. But King's Palace going down now for Diege, a little slower than Murder Inc.'s, but he still has the military advantage at this stage, I believe. Yet 65 to 52 pops, so we got 38-14 and 43-24. So a couple of worker snipes and getting housed early on. Murder Inc.'s now down by about 5 vills. He's definitely not out of the game at this point, because Diege now having to really commit to rams. And I mean, I said they could pressure these buildings well, but they are quite expensive. They're 300 wood, so realistically you've got to snipe 2 production buildings to actually get your value out of it, because you do have to actually lock up your military to build them, and generally when you're stopping to build them, you've got the army advantage anyway, so you're locking up your own time to actually push. But in saying that, Murder Inc. probably needs to start trying to chip away at this ram with the longbows for now, and try and encourage Diege to move in, because longbow counts actually starting to really even up here. I think it's 16 to 15, so Murder Inc.'s actually massed slightly more bows behind this. Diege's, I think, had largely cut production to transition to his castle agent. He's going to switch to a man-at-arms flood from here, so it's going to mean Murder Inc.'s going to have to look at adding in crossbows or knights when that stables isn't finished. That's not great for him. He needs to get that up and running, because otherwise his army's looking really, really good, but I think that might be just what he needs to be able to break out of this. Ooh, and so the tower, Diege was patient. He didn't go arrow slits. He waited for his castle to get the springald, and now he's even going to be able to add a fortify outpost on top of this. So it's going to make it very hard for Murder Inc. to break this without adding trebuchets, which is a big investment. Ooh, that's quite a way away there, and quite assuming that Diege's not going to bother with the Sacred. I mean, he might not want to get a monk on it, but you know, he might want to park a horseman or two over here just to deny an opponent getting it or any relics nearby. So having sniped a ram and started his longbow upgrades, Murder1nc's not looking too shabby at the moment, but he will eventually get forced off this position if he lets this continue, especially considering Diege has transitioned to siege a little bit quicker. So Murder1nc probably needs to finish that stables, and ooh, this is good. He's adding a lumber camp, so he's going to be able to gather the wood a little bit more efficiently. But when you do that, guys, you're probably best off actually grabbing the villagers and chucking them on the most closest trees, especially already chopped down ones, to the lumber camp, just to make your gathering as efficient and streamlined as possible. But Diege, definitely in a good spot here. He's even gone for a fairly aggressive monastery here, so he wants to be able to take the Sacred and the relic as quickly as possible. It's risky, but it's hella efficient, because if he holds off here, he gains so much value, and he's fortifying the position anyway. You can always throw up a third tower or a keep, and this can be very hard for Murder1nc to take. And in the meanwhile, Murder1nc bleeding vills while this is going on, even though he has gone up to... Yeah, he's got the stone for 3 town centers, but he's never actually committed to the 3rd town center, which is interesting. Because you don't really need 300 if you're going to go for a tower or 2 and start pushing with like spring-autumn placements. You really only need like 150. And then to get on gathering again. So it's been a bit of a big loss for Murder1nc, gaining that 300 stone, but not actually committing to a 3rd town center from here, because now Diege, 61 vills and 48 military, to 46 and 38 for Murder1nc. So he's slightly behind economically, but still slowly bleeding out here. So there's even a knight amongst these horsemen here, so a little bit extra damage, although it's a bit of a shame he's stuck in the back there. They might have been able to get another 2nd villager there. So that's one thing to keep in mind, guys, is if you've got military, particularly quick military, all bunched up together, just make sure you're engaging with the higher damage units first, particularly if you're raiding and you're not going to be copying damage in response for it. I mean, obviously, on the other hand, you might want to have your horsemen tank the initial damage when charging into ranged or into infantry other than spears, and then you can have your knights follow up for free. You should almost never have cavalry charge at spears, like that's just stupid. Really, you want the cavalry to just sit back, melee kite, and have range attack them. But all this is scary for Murder1nc, because now the onus is on him to add a whole bunch of siege, try and break this hole. But in the meanwhile, he is keeping Diege busy at home, but he needs to be careful that these knights and, well, this knight and these horsemen don't go down for free, because he really only sniped a couple of vills and denied a little bit of gathering time. So you don't want to lose too many army units for your raiding. I wonder if Diege's best off dropping the relic off and then capturing this, or if this just means he can convert on the odd chance that Murder1nc tries to navigate around and push. But I mean, English v English is one of the worst matchups to try and get conversions, because you're always going to have fucking longbows early on, so it's going to be nearly impossible to try and have a low health unit that's not a heavy armor unit. Ooh, but Murder1nc, yeah, sniping with the 2 knights, and now that relic not gaining any value for Diege yet. Like I said, I think Diege might have been better off just having it put in the monastery first, but Murder1nc, he's really got to look at either getting Springles or Trebs to try and break this, because he needs to snipe the Trebs and then have something to tear down the outposts. So Trebs is probably the way to go in the long run, because you can take out the buildings, but the Springles a little bit cheaper, and they are a really nice high damage unit against the Trebs. And the beauty is, Murder1nc, not only with the Abbey of Kings repair units, and he probably should be trying to take a couple of engagements now to take advantage of that fact while it's still alive. He can also repair the Springles because I don't think Diege has left any villages here. No, he hasn't. So without any vills up here to help repair the siege, Diege's actually taking a little bit of a risk. And Murder1nc may be able to punish it, but saying that, the Sabia Kings is gonna fall. I think even the town center's under threat now, so Murder1nc gonna be able to take pot shots at that treb. Oh, there is one villager now up to repair it, so very smart by Diege to bring a vill forward to keep that repaired. Because at the moment it's all he really needs to keep the pressure on Murder1nc and look at capturing as many sacreds and relics around the map while he keeps this push up. Because he can really, yeah, keep the pressure on here. Because basically once your opponent is frozen up like this, you know you're almost certain to actually catch their raiders. Really all you need to do is park like a unit here, and a unit here, and you're going to catch sort of any raiding attempt by an opponent on the defensive from here. So I think Diege is pretty free to take the map. But in saying that, Murder1nc is not far enough behind that he's outright out of this. Like if Diege takes a bad fight, or if Murder1nc does get away with some raiding, he can definitely surge back into this game. He can look at if he gets the resources to throw up a fairly quick monastery and capture the relics in response to his opponent going for a sacred site and not really going for all the relics. But we've got a bit of a fight going on down now, and population-wise heading into this, Murder1nc is down by about 20 pop, but it looks as though he's doing well. He's got a mangonel here to try and pressure this, and longbowmen do a little bit better than most of your other ranged units, most of your archer units against such a heavy front line of the man-at-arms, but there is no support here for the longbowmen anymore as such. All the melee has been killed off for Murder1nc, so Diege is now really able to mount a hefty push. He's crept up by about 50 pop now, so that fight was great for him. The one mangonel not really able to make up for the fact that Murder1nc didn't have as much of a melee heavy armor front line, but he does have crossbows in the mix, so these guys are actually a specialist against melee heavy armor units, while Diege only has longbows at this stage. So, but these guys overextending a little bit, and Diege picking off a few more kills at the moment. Murder1nc, after that fight, can't really afford to lose anymore. He either needs knights or mangonels from here to really make it out of this, I think, or even get his own man-at-arms. Because these guys are a really cost-effective tank against longbowmen until they're able to actually get their volley again in Age 4. Early on, the longbowmen really dominate the matchup, but as soon as knights get on the field, all players get the upgrades for the man-at-arms, and they're able to field more than a handful of them, because they are quite expensive. Suddenly, the matchup becomes very crossbow and melee, heavy melee centric, as do most of the matchups. So Murder1nc trying to get some value. He's camping these berries, but he probably needs to go in on the wood line. Diege's chasing him down, but I think Murder1nc might be able to. There's that much there for Diege. He'll be able to clean this up. But in saying that, Diege probably could have made that cleaner by sending like. Oh, he doesn't have any spears. I was going to say, if he was still using spears, or if he had any crossbowmen, much more efficient to send them. So that does get cleaned up, but it does cost Diege a few of his longbows in the meantime. But Murder1nc again has lost another fight, so it's a pretty hefty toll for him. And behind this, he hasn't managed to squeeze in a monastery, I don't think, and he hasn't really added any more production too. So this might be a bit of a last stand from him. Because yeah, and GG. So Diege goes through to round 3.